In the EA Sports College Football 25 video game, which released back in July, I ran a tournament containing the top 24 teams in the game at the time of the game's release. Based on overall, it was AI versus AI. I spectated the entire thing, and I'm going to be covering a lot of all of the trap games that happened in the tournament. In this video, a trap game is when a team that should normally easily win loses, or if they do win and they lose by so little and in a crucial time that it pretty much eliminates them from contention for the knockout stage. It was a two-stage tournament. A group stage, there was 6 groups of 4, and a knockout stage with 8 teams. The top teams in each group plus the 2 best second place teams. Some of the criteria for it being counted as a game being counted as a trap game is for round 1 of the group stage. It is based on real life. If a team should normally beat their opponent in real life and they lose in the tournament, it'll be counted as a trap game. The second round, it is a mix of round 1 based on real life results and a mix of uh the results from the first round as well. Ah, the first trap game actually was the very first game in the tournament. It was Georgia at Arizona in a matchup for Group D, in a group that I named the Group of Death. The reason why is because the other members of the group was Ohio State and LSU. Arizona was the main outlier in the group, having to face Georgia, uh, Ohio State, and LSU. However, in a shocker, Arizona beat Georgia 17-14 on a game-winning field goal after Georgia blew a 14-0 lead. Our next trap game, again in round 1, Virginia Tech beats Oklahoma State 28-21 in overtime. Oklahoma State, normally the more well-known of the two programs for football, all ended up having to come back from a 21-7 deficit to only throw an interception in right at the end to end the game after Virginia Tech scored first on their drive in overtime. This game set the tone for Oklahoma State's tournament, although this will not be the only time we see Oklahoma State in a trap game during the tournament. Our next trap game was the first game of round 2 of the group stage. In fact, both of our trap games in round 2 were the first 2 games of the round, so I will be mentioning them now. The first one, NC State beats Penn State. This meets both criteria that I mentioned of who would normally win in real life and past results. NC State in round 1 was demolished 24-3 against Florida State. Penn State won their first game 10-0 against Oregon. And North Carolina State won 21-10 I'm just gonna verify that Yep, 21-10. No, the Florida State one was. Yeah, it was 24-3, if I remember correctly. NC State was in a bad position. However, they managed to get a win to maybe keep their knockout stage hopes alive. Our next trap game, Arizona versus Ohio State. Oh, the second consecutive time Arizona in a trap game against a premier program. Arizona wins 14-7. And our first honorable mention in goes to Utah, just barely losing to Michigan in double overtime. And back to our trap game, Arizona won the group because in the next game, Georgia beat LSU. That won't count as a trap game, even though LSU lost the previous week, because LSU still had a chance at winning the group, and also they are also the same conference as Georgia, and one of the more well-known members of the SEC, along with Georgia. I forgot to mention this earlier in the video, but round 3 and the knockout stage is completely based on past results. Although there's a little bit of who should normally win in real life sprinkled in, but it's mostly based on past results. Our first trap game of round 3. Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State 14-13. Oklahoma going into this game was expected to win, as Oklahoma State had lost their previous 2 matchups. However, that 14-3 really cost Oklahoma a knockout stage berth. They finished. They needed points differential, or as Georgia, who ended up finishing second in the wild card standings, finished with a points differential of +7. Oklahoma finished with +5. If they had have won by more, they likely would have been able to overtake Georgia. And our next trap game goes to Texas A&M versus Kansas. Texas A&M lost their first matchup against Alabama, then beat Colorado. Yes, Colorado is in this tournament. However, Kansas was absolutely destroyed in their previous 2 matchups, losing to Colorado 42-23 and losing to Alabama like 27-14. Texas A&M looking to clinch a spot in the knockout stage. Things looking good for A&M, considering the Jayhawks have been demolished the previous 2 games. Well, if you looked at the title of the video, that's not what happened. Instead, Kansas won 25-14, ending Texas A&M's chances at knockout stage contention. Texas A&M blew a 14-0 halftime lead, and also their quarterback threw 5 interceptions. You're not winning with 5 interceptions from a quarterback unless you're Jared Goff against the Houston Texans. Our next trap game is LSU versus Arizona. The 3rd consecutive time Arizona has appeared in a trap game. They've already won the group their group, but they are looking to at least hopefully get home field for advantage for at least the first round, so they need a win. Instead, they lost to a 0-2 LSU, who won 25-21, with Arizona blowing an 11-point lead with less than a minute of it after the 2-minute timeout. Yes, less than a minute after the 2-minute timeout, LSU was winning the game, even though Arizona was leading before. Our next trap game comes immediately after Wisconsin versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss initially won their first game against USC, then lost after getting demolished by Texas, who would ultimately win the 1 seed for the knockout stage and having a run to the championship go through to the Rose Bowl go through Austin. Wisconsin beat Ole Miss 27-16, eliminating Ole Miss's chances at the knockout stage. Our next one comes 2 games later. Notre Dame, who was in the fight for Group C along with Virginia Tech and Oklahoma, although Oklahoma would have not been able to win the group. Oops, so never mind, just Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech wins 17-14, yet Notre Dame wins the group because of tiebreakers due to Oklahoma having the same record as Notre Dame and Virginia Tech, forcing the multi-team tiebreakers in which the tiebreaker went to Notre Dame. The knockout stage. Well, there was only one trap game. That trap game was Texas, the 1 seed, versus the 8 seed Georgia. Texas went up 17-7 at half. However, blew that lost the lead, then regained the lead, and then humiliatingly gave up a 80-something yard touchdown on right at the end. Georgia left 1 second to score, however, Texas did not score back. The reason Georgia won the tournament, but why none of their other games in the knockout stage got any thought of a trap game? Because that first game, because they solidified themselves as a possible contender just by beating the 1 seed. They beat Alabama, in which gets our first another honorable mention in the quarterfinal. They beat Clemson 31-28 off of a game-winning field goal. Another honorable mention goes to Michigan and Arizona. Oh, Arizona yet again comes up, but they were on the losing end 13-3. Some other notable honorable mentions is Colorado, Alabama in round 3. Alabama manages to hold on and win the group. Another, USC barely lost to Texas just a game later after the Colorado-Alabama game. 35-28 Texas, the final score. Another main honorable mention that I would like to point out is Wisconsin versus Texas. Texas wins 14-6. Thanks for watching.